New economic data is released about how serious the rent eviction moratorium situation is under a second stimulus check. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update today. This one's about rent assistance, rent moratoriums, what's happening with this financial cliff, and where are we going with the big issue about evictions. As you know, we've been detailing with you over the last couple of days the issue about what's happening with moratoriums. These moratoriums in some states, in some counties, and in some cities have allowed citizens to be protected against evictions. But in some places, they're not in place. In some cases, there are no moratoriums in place, or the moratoriums have been lifted, and evictions are starting. How bad is it? Well, we have detailed that the HEROES Act, which is currently in the Senate from the House, proposed to do a lot of different things. It proposes to, one, create a fund that will give you grant money that you can use to pay your landlord for your rent that you cannot make. Two, it proposes to give you utilities money that you could pay your utilities company for utilities bills you cannot make. Finally, it would create a federal moratorium against evictions during the period in which the pandemic is going on. It sounds great. It makes sense. It's consistent with what a lot of states have done. If you live in Delaware, I wish you do, in Delaware, they can't evict anyone. There's no evictions in the state of Delaware until the pandemic's over. How wonderful is that? It's so great, but here's the situation. A new interview today with Emily Benfer, who is the chair of the American Bar Association Task Force on Evictions and a co-creator of the COVID-19 housing policy, was interviewed about how bad the eviction situation is currently in the United States. I haven't been able to really touch on that in this channel yet. I've been able to detail for you how to protect yourself against eviction, how to be prepared for free rent assistance, how to learn whether there's eviction moratorium in your state, but I haven't known how bad the situation is until today. Here is her detail. She said, she was asked how bad is the situation right now. She says, we can expect this to increase dramatically in the coming weeks and months, especially as the time of support and measures that are no longer in place start to expire. About 10 million people over periods of years were displaced from their homes during the financial crisis of 2008. So let me say that again slower. I'm really butchering my words here. She said that 10 million people were kicked out of their homes during the financial collapse of 2008. And that was over a very long period of time. 10 million. How bad is it right now? She said it's currently looking at 20 to 28 million people just now in the next couple of weeks. Not only is the number almost 3 times the number of 2008, the number currently is over a matter of a couple days compared to the 2008 number, which spanned over a couple of years. It's that serious. You said the intersection of health and housing and health. What does this mean? She says if there's an increase in homelessness, you could expect the virus to rise about 40%. I mean, it doesn't take a lawyer to tell you that. The concern that all these people are going to be put on the street only compounds the concern that they will contract COVID-19. How does the eviction crisis brought on by the pandemic compare to 2008? She says, it's 300% worse. And you've been keeping track of what states are doing to protect their tenants, which I've been doing as well on this channel, mostly through eviction moratoriums. How do you feel about how those efforts have done? So that's basically what I've been talking about on this channel. She's asked that question. She says some of the moratoriums are limited to different segments of the population and in their duration, but they were not compiled with financial assistance to ensure that renters don't accrue back debt. So she's worried that while there are some moratoriums, they weren't written right. But then there's this. She says the moment the moratoriums are lifted, all those families will immediately be put out. And right now, 29 states lack any level of moratorium in place. It's really quite bad. It basically says that of all our states of the country, 29 have no eviction moratoriums. 20 to 28 million evictions are currently on the books now, and that could really grow very quickly. We have this moratorium that was established under the CARES Act, which is expiring. We have moratoriums on several states which are expiring. And of course, the bottom line is, you know what I'm about to say, is that the HEROES bill, which is currently in the Senate, hasn't yet passed. So any hope for financial relief or rental relief or moratorium relief hasn't passed. What I detailed earlier today was that Steve Mnuchin is basically saying, though the White House's tune, at least in the last 48 hours, is not to really help much of anyone. That everyone else is just sort of fend for themselves. So come this fall, 30 million people unemployed, 30 million people homeless in just a few weeks, 29 states of massive rampant unemployment that would cause rampant rises in COVID-19 cases, people displaced from their homes, and then we have everything else. And someone said in the comments the other day that I don't care about landlords. So not true. I care about everyone of every walk of life, and I've specifically discussed the food chain. If you have tenants who can't make rent because Steve Mnuchin has gypped them and tried to not give them a second stimulus check, or not give them an extension of FPUC, or not give them unemployment benefits, or not give them anything, and they're kicked on the street, well, the landlord doesn't have that rent. Then the landlord doesn't have rent to make their mortgage. Then the banker that wrote the mortgage is going to foreclose. And the bank is going to get a foreclosed property, which the bank doesn't want to have. And suddenly the bank will have all these mortgages that aren't being paid upon, and the banks will suffer financial collapse. There's nothing worse than the food chain going up, because it doesn't matter how important or how insignificant one person or one group thinks that they are, they're all important. Because what will happen in the end is that the entire food chain could collapse. So you could have everything from banks going into financial meltdown because they have all these foreclosures coming due, all these foreclosures on their balance sheets. You have all these properties going into foreclosures. You have all these landlords losing their properties, and you have all these tenants becoming homeless. And then you have everything else on top of that, which are property owners who have had mortgage forbearances, mortgage moratoriums. Under the CARES Act, you couldn't foreclose upon someone's house if they couldn't make their mortgage during this pandemic. Those things are being lifted. Those things are gone. HEROES Act extends them into 2021, but we don't have them extended yet. It hasn't become a law. Ultimately, what's going to happen? We don't know. But the cause and the concern is that free rent is needed now, free utilities is needed now, moratorium is needed now, and the people you need are not here. Congress is on vacation. Congress is not here. I can't imagine a universe in which you elect officials who go on vacation during a pandemic, and then everyone else is thrown out on the street while the elected officials are on their vacation. Everyone loses their jobs, everyone loses their homes, everyone loses their bank accounts, everyone loses everything, and the elected officials are on vacation. And they don't feel any guilt about it. It's truly disgusting. Coming up later today, more videos. We'll be answering your questions about the second stimulus check from SSDI, SSI, EIDL, and a special bonus video. Stay with us, like and share, and stay with LA for more.